James DeGale draw a super middleweight unification thriller with Badou Jack after both fighters are knocked down. James DeGale and Badou Jack's super middleweight unification fight ended in a majority draw. One judge scored the fight 114-112 in favor of DeGale while the other two scored it 113-113. DeGale holds on to his IBF super middleweight world title while Jack retains his WBC strap. The British fighter sent Jack crashing to the canvas in the opening round of the fight in Brooklyn. But Jack fought back strongly and ended the final round by putting DeGale on the floor. They called a mighty war a majority draw in Brooklyn and turned an epic world super middleweight title fight into a squabble over the terms for a rematch which would leave James DeGale's plans for a triumphal British homecoming in chaos. At the end of a thriller in which both DeGale and his rival belt holder Badou Jack were knocked down and each of them required to exhibit courage beyond the call of duty, the outcome was unfairly deflating. The championship is still not unified after this decision by two of the judges. IBF champion DeGale, the token winner on the third card, offered, "Listen. Let's do it again." WBC champion Badou Jack said that's alright with him as long we go up to light heavyweight. Callum Smith, the young Liverpool pretender to both those thrones, sat watching at ringside as his hitherto clear and mandatory right to challenge DeGale dwindled into confusion. The 10,000 crowd at the Barclays Centre would love to see Chunky and the Swede go at it again. So would all who watched on television. Hell, so would the whole boxing world. Whether or not Jack's struggle to make the super middle 12-stone limit or the alphabet politics of the ring conspire against that remains to be seen. The likelihood is that Jack will vacate the title he fought almost to death to defend here. So Smith will probably fight America's Anthony Dirrell for that belt. DeGale is likely to take a spring break while he recovers his strength, replaces a tooth lost in the heat of heroic battle and ponders the most exciting opponent for his next title defense. This is an unsatisfactory conclusion to a momentous night's boxing. DeGale started brilliantly, knocking down Jack in the first round and dominating the opening stages. Jack came back valiantly in the second half and knocked down DeGale in the last. Each was close to losing at times. Men of lesser will would have done. Even the referee, Arthur Mercant Jr., was hit by a stray punch from Jack. There were no serious complaints about the judging, but for the record my card was in agreement with the third man's score of 114-112 for DeGale, not the two marks of 113-113. A lively New York crowd flocked to the Barclays Center through wintry snowfall in Brooklyn. Some came to cheer neighborhood youngsters on the undercard, but this is Fight Town, USA, and there was serious interest in seeing an Englishman and a Swede dispute supremacy over the super middleweight division. Jack is domiciled in America, albeit a 3-hour time zone away in Las Vegas. DeGale had made a name for himself this side of the Atlantic in his 3 previous Road Warrior fights on the Eastern Seaboard, and he entered the ring as the local betting favorite to unify the IBF, WBC and Ring Magazine elements of the championship. The atmosphere was supercharged immediately before the main event by the new knockout sensation in Money Mayweather's growing stable of fighters. Baltimore's Gervonta Davis, suitably nicknamed Tank, mowed down Puerto Rico's IBF junior lightweight champion to win his first world title. The crowd were in jubilant uproar as Davis battered the stylish but outgunned Jose Pedraza. It was a minor classic for half a dozen rounds, but Pedraza was always taking the heavier punishment and never looked like rising after being dumped on the seat of his pants by a flurry of massive blows with less than half a minute remaining in the 7th. Mayweather leapt into the ring to embrace his man and tell the public, "This is the future of boxing. Believe me." They did. And the scene was perfectly set for Chunky and Jack the Ripper. Jack, outwardly relaxed and smiling, was led to the ring by a rapper in loud voice. DeGale was at the head of his party, looking focused and ready for business. A large contingent of Brits outshouted Jack's fans at the onset. Then all 10,128 in paid attendance fell quiet through a wary, cat-and-mouse opening. They came to life with a roar as DeGale sent his rival champion to the canvas with a straight left to the jack chin. It was the dream start of Chunky. DeGale, sensing the possibility of an early finish, set the pace at the start of the second. He was too fast and his punches too varied for Jack at this stage. The closest the Swede came to finding any sort of answer was to throw a punch in frustration after the bell. It missed. Jack is a notoriously slow starter and he was being dazzled by the most intensely motivated DeGale we have seen in the ring. The bursts and flurries tucked away another round. If Jack were to get a fisthold on this fight he needed to go up a gear and there was more urgency about him at the start of the fourth. The body shot is one of Jack's major weapons and he set about the potentially long and arduous task of trying to slow DeGale. He did, with enough success to edge his first round. DeGale put on his dancing shoes at the start of the fifth. Jack tracked him down with a couple of solid rights. Although his best punch, again thrown after the bell, connected with the chin of the referee. Mr. Arthur Mercant proved that officials, too, can take a punch and recovered quickly. In the confusion and no little humor Jack probably closed the gap a little more. Mayweather was on his feet leading the cheers for Jack as his man enjoyed his best round yet. DeGale was caught repeatedly and appeared to be slowing as he soaked up the punishment. There was pandemonium in the Jack corner as they sensed the stoppage. Prematurely, as it happened, but the Swede was now right back in the fight. DeGale dug deep in the seventh, sensing the danger. A series of speedy combinations climaxed by a stinging uppercut turned the tide of the fight again. The eighth was a nightmare for DeGale. He needed a different kind of courage and endeavor now. Jack staggered him with a huge right. But for DeGale's great, resilient chin he would have gone down under the ensuing barrage. To his huge credit DeGale battled back at the end of the round and it was a thriller now. If a war it had to be, DeGale was ready for the battle of his life. With a mix of fast feet and lightning punches he resumed control, even though it looked as if a tooth as well as his gum shield may have been knocked out in the brutal eighth. DeGale was going to need every ounce of his dedicated training and conditioning in the championship rounds. He began the 10th brilliantly, taking advantage of his speed as Jack went back to the body. This time it was DeGale's turn to throw a late punch, but he had landed enough in the 3 minutes to sneak another, vital round. The huge effort in the 9th and 10th appeared to have sapped a little of DeGale's strength at the start of the 11th but he raised another huge effort in the last 2 minutes, battling Jack onto the defensive and to imminent defeat on my card. Chunky had done just enough on my card but now the official verdict. One judge agreed with my 114-112 score in his favor but the other two voted for a majority draw. The only protest of note came from Jack's celebrity promoter Floyd Mayweather. This is the second fight in which Badou has had a bad decision. He won and this is bad for boxing.